Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I, 22 female, am currently drowning in a whirlwind of family drama that's left me questioning everything I've ever known about my life. This is going to be long, but I need to get it all out, so here it goes. Some context. My mom, 48 female, and dad, 50 male, have been married for 25 years. They've always seemed like the perfect couple, at least to the outside world. My mom is the warm, nurturing type. She remembers everyone's birthdays, cooks for the whole family during the holidays, and sends thoughtful texts just to brighten your day. My dad, on the other hand, is complicated. He's strict but loving. He was the kind of dad who believed in discipline and tough love. Growing up, I always knew he cared, but his way of showing it was often through lectures about responsibility and making me earn my place in the world. My mom met my dad through her younger sister, Aunt Clara, 46 female, when they were in their early 20s. My mom and Clara were incredibly close growing up. They were practically inseparable, even as adults. Clara was always around, at family dinners, on vacations, and during holidays. She's bubbly, charming, and the life of every party. I always admired how close she and my mom were, and I loved having her as my aunt. Then there's Sophia, 22 female, Clara's daughter, my cousin. Sophia and I are the same age and grew up like sisters. We did everything together: sleepovers, summer camps, family trips. Sophia's dad was never in the picture. Aunt always said he was a guy she met in a bar and had a one-night stand with. She didn't even have his contact information, but she decided to keep the baby because she'd always dreamed of being a mom. My dad, being the upstanding man he was, said that Sophia needed a father figure in her life, and he stepped into that role. For as long as I can remember, my dad treated Sophia like his own child. He seemed to adore her. He would dote on her, buying her gifts, taking her out for ice cream, and even calling her his second daughter. At the time, I thought it was sweet. I assumed he loved her like a niece because of how close my mom was to Clara, and that Sophia didn't have a father. And honestly, I didn't mind. I loved Sophia too, and I was happy she felt included in our family. But as I got older, I started to notice things that didn't sit right with me. For example, while my dad was strict with me, insisting I do chores, maintain perfect grades, and save up for my own expenses, he would spoil Sophia rotten. She got expensive gifts on her birthday, while I'd get something practical like a new backpack. He'd take her shopping and let her pick out whatever she wanted. But if I asked for something, he'd say I needed to learn the value of money. The real breaking point came when it was time for college. I worked my butt off in high school to get into a good university. When I brought up the topic of tuition, my dad told me flat out that he wouldn't be paying for it. He said I needed to toughen up and earn my way in life. He claimed it would build character and that I shouldn't expect anything handed to me on a silver platter. I was crushed, but I took his words to heart. I worked multiple part-time jobs and applied for scholarships to cover my tuition. It wasn't easy, but I made it work. Then, during my second year of college, I found out through a family friend that my dad had paid for Sophia's tuition in full. Not just that, he also covered her rent, her books, and even gave her a monthly allowance. I was furious. I couldn't understand why he would refuse to help his own daughter, but would go out of his way to support his niece. At first, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe he felt bad for Clara because she was a single mom, and Sophia didn't have a father to support her. Maybe he thought Sophia needed more help than I did. But the more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I started noticing other things too. Little details that I had overlooked before. The way my dad would light up when Sophia entered the room. How he always seemed to prioritize her needs over mine. How he'd defend her even when she was clearly in the wrong. It all started to feel off. One day, during a family gathering, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I confronted my dad in front of everyone. I asked him why he treated Sophia like she was his daughter while treating me like some distant relative. I brought up the college tuition and demanded an explanation. The room went silent. My dad looked stunned and furious. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. He said, "Sophia isn't as capable as you are. She needs help, and I'm just trying to give her a fair chance. You're strong, independent, and resourceful. I knew you'd make it on your own. Also, you should be ashamed of yourself for being jealous of your cousin. She doesn't have a father, while you're lucky to have both parents. Auntie is struggling to support her on her own, so me and your mother are stepping up to help. So shame on you for trying to shame us for that." I didn't know what to say. His words felt like a slap in the face. I felt ashamed and in the wrong. Yes, my cousin doesn't have a father, and my auntie is on her own supporting her. But I still couldn't let it go. Something still didn't sit right with me. That night, I started digging. I went through old photo albums, family records, anything I could find. And that's when I noticed something strange. There were hardly any pictures of my mom and dad together in the early years of their marriage. But there were plenty of pictures of my dad and Clara. I know it might sound crazy, but I had this idea that Sophia might be my father's daughter. It started bothering me so much that I decided to get a DNA test done for myself and Sophia. I needed to know the truth because my thoughts and suspicions were eating me alive. When the results came back, my worst fears were confirmed. Sophia wasn't just my cousin. She was my half-sister. My dad had an affair with Clara, and Sophia was the result. I was devastated. Everything I thought I knew about my family was a lie. I went straight to my mom and showed her the results. She broke down in tears. She had no idea. She kept saying, "How could he do this to me? To us?" I felt horrible for being the one to break her heart, but she deserved to know the truth. When my dad came home that evening, my mom confronted him with the DNA results. He didn't even try to deny it. He admitted to the affair and said it happened when they were newly married. He claimed it was a mistake and that he'd been trying to make up for it ever since by taking care of Sophia and Clara. My mom was furious. She told him their marriage was over and that she never wanted to see him again. My dad, in turn, blamed me for ruining his marriage. He said I should have kept my mouth shut and that I had no right to dig into his past and their marriage. Meanwhile, Aunt came to my mom, crying and begging for forgiveness. She admitted to the affair, saying it had been a mistake, a lapse in judgment. She claimed she never meant to hurt anyone and that she and my dad had ended things long before Sophia was born. But the damage was already done. My mom couldn't look at her the same way. Our once close family was shattered into pieces. Sophia was devastated when she found out. She had no idea about her parentage and had grown up believing the same story about her father being a one-night stand. She tried to talk to me, to understand why I had exposed everything. But every time I looked at her, I felt a mix of anger, pity, and sadness. She didn't ask to be born into this mess, but she was a constant reminder of the betrayal that destroyed my family. My mom has filed for divorce. My dad keeps calling me, alternating between begging for forgiveness and yelling at me for destroying everything. I'm emotionally drained and don't know what to do. I feel like I did the right thing by exposing the truth, but at the same time, I've torn my family apart. So, Reddit. Am I the a-hole for uncovering the truth and telling my mom? OP's dad had the audacity to excuse his blatant favoritism by pretending he was some noble father figure for Sophia, while treating OP like an afterthought. The fact that he funded her entire life while forcing OP to fend for herself is appalling. OP had every right to uncover the truth, and honestly, OP's mom deserved to know. If anyone ruined this family, it was OP's dad for having an affair with his wife's sister and keeping it a secret for so long. OP should not let him guilt-trip her into thinking this is her fault, because it's not. He's just trying to avoid taking accountability for his own actions. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Wow, OP, you are definitely not the a-hole. What your dad did is unforgivable, and I'm sorry you had to deal with such a betrayal. Not only did he cheat on your mom, but he built an entire web of lies to justify his favoritism towards Sophia while neglecting you. And Clara, she sounds like a piece of work, downplaying everything as if it were no big deal. The fact that your dad tried to paint himself as a hero in Sophia's life while putting you down is disgusting. You're incredibly strong for uncovering the truth and standing up for yourself. I hope your mom finds peace after the divorce because she deserves better, and so do you. Not the a-hole. I'm genuinely amazed at how you managed to keep your composure throughout all of this. Your dad didn't just betray your mom, he betrayed you too. He hid the truth, treated you unfairly, and had the nerve to blame you for his marriage falling apart when it was his actions that caused this mess in the first place. And let's not forget Clara. She knew what she was doing when she lied about Sophia's father. The fact that she let your dad step up while keeping this secret from your mom is beyond cruel. You're not the one who ruined this family. You're just the one brave enough to expose the cracks that were already there. OP, this is such a heartbreaking situation, but you are absolutely not the a-hole. Your dad's favoritism was bad enough, but the way he justified it with lies and gaslighting is infuriating. He failed you as a father by treating you like you didn't deserve his support, while giving everything to Sophia. And Clara, she let this lie go on for decades, knowing full well it would hurt everyone involved if it ever came out. You didn't tear your family apart. Your dad and Clara did that the moment they decided to lie and keep secrets. I hope you can find peace knowing you did the right thing by telling your mom the truth. She deserved to know. My father got my mom pregnant in university. She didn't want me, and my grandparents did. I grew up with my grandparents raising me. They did their best, but I am definitely a handful, and they had trouble keeping up. I wasn't a bad kid or anything. I just had a lot of energy, and I should have been a grandchild they spoiled, not an extra kid. They loved me, and they did their best. My father, on the other hand, was kind of an a-hole. He would never spend time with me, and when he graduated and later got married, I wasn't even an afterthought. The cool stuff about my grandparents, though, is all their stuff. My grandfather has a garage full of tools. He does all the repairs on their vehicles and around the house. My grandmother has antique kitchen gadgets that she taught me how to use. It was like growing up in a time machine. My grandfather helped me build my first desktop. He can do anything with his hands. He also taught me how to take care of his old car. Him and my grandmother have regular cars, but he also has an old muscle car. It would not be out of place in the Fast and Furious movies. I'm getting married this summer, and my grandparents decided to gift me the old car. He always said he was going to give it to my father, but I guess he changed his mind. I asked my grandfather what I could do with the car. He said it was 100% mine. I could do whatever I wanted. Talked to my fiancé. He said that it was a beautiful collector's item, but not really something we could afford to keep. We decided we were going to have our wedding pictures taken with the car, and then we were going to sell it. We have talked to places that sell these cars, and we will get enough for a good down payment on a house. My father found out that I got the car, and he is mad. He says it was supposed to go to him, and he was going to keep it to give to his son. I said that if he got it appraised, I would give him the right to buy it. He got it appraised. He could afford it, but not easily. He says I'm being a B and holding his past behavior against him. No crap, Sherlock. He abandoned me and now wants me to play nice. My fiancé says we should find a compromise because my father wants to keep the car in the family. I'm going to be honest. I don't want my father or my half-brother to get this car. I would rather sell it to a stranger. My grandparents love the idea of wedding pictures with the car and then knowing that they helped us buy a house. My grandfather said it was fate that he kept the car and never let my father drive it. I have driven it. It scares me. I like my Nissan Leaf. I do feel a bit like a jerk for keeping my father from getting the car. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. And listen to your grandfather about him being glad he didn't give it to your father. Listen hard, and then listen again. This was the easiest judgment of my life. Not the a-hole 100 times. Your S-donor of a father has no say in what your grandfather does with the car. He gave it to you and explicitly said to do what you want with it. Not only that, but he supports your decision. I'm not even going to waste my time outlining all the ways your father is an a-hole, but I think you've made that abundantly clear. Don't worry about what he thinks. Not the a-hole. Name your price, what you want out of it, and if he can meet it in cash, then good for him. If not, then congratulations to the first person with cash in hand willing to meet your required price. Grandfather gave you the car. It's legally and morally yours to do whatever you decide. Mother-in-law grew up in an extremely vain family. Both of her parents and both grandmothers were unhealthily obsessed with her looks. So of course mother-in-law grew up highly valuing beauty. Mother-in-law has 3-year-old twin girls, and one tends to get all of the attention in public because she looks like mother-in-law, and the other one is more plain-looking, for lack of a better word. I feel like a jerk even typing that. To be fair, I think people just fawn over the prettier twin because she has red hair, and it is a bit of a novelty. Mother-in-law worries a lot about how this is going to affect the other twin, and mother-in-law has freaked out on her family for favoring the prettier twin. I fully get her concern there, but what pisses me off is mother-in-law plays favorites with her kids. The twins are on a pedestal, and my husband gets scraps. I fully get the twins are little and need her, but she is ridiculous. She cried when she found out she was pregnant because she wanted to be a mother again and told my husband that now it doesn't matter that they are fighting, so implying she was replacing him. Also, they were fighting over me. She has no issues with her husband admitting he hates her son. She wasn't even too concerned when he jokingly told the twins that mother-in-law hates her own son. She said she only wants girls the second time around, so she would never have another daughter-in-law. Someone pointed out that one of the twins could be gay, and mother-in-law says that's fine, and what she was really trying to say was that she could never have another cowardly son. She claims that my husband was such a bad child, that 2 seems easier than 1. Funny, she never mentioned any of this until he got with me. Said the twins will get everything when she dies, assuming she doesn't hate their spouse as much as she hates me. Missed our engagement party for a 3-year-old's dance recital. Anyway, it is pretty obvious my husband isn't her favorite kid. I got married on Saturday, and the twins were my flower girls. I had a good friend of mine doing hair and makeup, and she was fawning over the prettier twin. She told her a couple times in front of the other child that she is the cutest, prettiest kid she has ever seen. Mother-in-law finally told her to shut the duck up, stop talking to both kids, and think about the ignorant things she says. Yes, mother-in-law always goes from 0 to 100. Mother-in-law told me that my friend was an idiot and went on a rant about how dumb people are about her twins. I looked at mother-in-law and said she can't get mad when someone favors one twin over the other because she plays favorites with her own children, so she isn't any better. Mother-in-law was like, "Really?" and grabbed both kids and stormed off. Everyone in the room agreed it was fine because it was true. Mother-in-law confronted me later and said I'm a terrible person because having a strained relationship with a grown man is different than favoring one toddler over the other. You're the a-hole. A bunch of grown people acting foolish and being petty around 3-year-olds. She missed your engagement party for an actual child's recital? What is wrong with you that you think she made the wrong choice? Your friends also suck. No wonder y'all are friends. Everyone sucks here. Your mother-in-law doesn't sound great, but she was right to step in to address the unequal treatment of her daughters. It doesn't make the way she treats your husband okay, but why stoop to her level? Especially when young children are involved. They didn't do anything wrong. You're the a-hole. How can you not even see that? Of course it's not okay to treat children like that, and good for her for trying to ensure they are treated the same, even if one is prettier. She's also correct that having a strained relationship with your grown child is much different than treating toddlers like that. If she actually has even said or done that to your husband, that's not right. But I feel a whole lot of this story is missing, especially on your and your husband's part. I, 32 female, am getting married to my fiancé, 38 male, this year. My parents separated when I was 14 years old. My dad left my mom for a secretary. I'll call her Anna. After my mom was in an accident that left her badly visibly scarred, leaving her to raise my 2 sisters, both 25 twins, and me alone. This completely devastated my mom, and she was depressed for a long time. She's okay now, but she's never completely recovered. I'm the oldest child by a long stretch, and I was basically left to raise my sisters and look after my mom for a lot of my teenage years. I was very, very angry for a long time, and I refused to see my dad until I was in my mid-20s. Both my younger sisters were significantly too young to grasp what had happened and continued to visit him, on weekends only. They bonded a lot better with Anna than I did, and in many ways, she was like a mom to them. She introduced them to a lot of female things, like makeup and fashion, because my mom's scarring meant she didn't feel comfortable with that kind of thing. I started speaking to my dad again about 7 years ago, and we now have an okay relationship. I understand a lot better at this age that love isn't easy, and you can't help who you fall for. I'm also on reasonable terms with his wife, who has tried extremely hard to bond with me since I was a teenager. My mom has never fully recovered from what happened, and never found anyone else. She can just about stand being in the same room as my dad without crying nowadays, but she absolutely cannot see his wife. She's not cruel or dramatic about this. She just politely declines invitations to events if she knows Anna will be present. For previous events, like graduations, Anna has always declined the invite, saying she doesn't want to put my mom in an uncomfortable position, and pushed my dad to go alone. However, with my wedding, things haven't exactly gone like that. I tried to be as nice as I could about it, and I invited Anna out for a meal, and told her that I was sorry, but that it was more important to me to have my mom at my wedding than her, so I was going to have to ask her not to come to the wedding. Anna said that she understood, that she expected it, and that I needed to do what was best for my mom. My dad, on the other hand, became extremely angry at me when he heard. He called me up and essentially said if she's not coming, then he's not. Both my sisters have found out about this, and they're extremely upset with me too, and are also threatening not to come. I'm not sure if I'm the a-hole here. I mean, it's your wedding, so you can do what you want. As an aside, I always am baffled about giving the cheater the grace of forgiveness, but not the mistress. What they both did was super crappy, but your dad is the one who chose to abandon your mom, not the stepmom. Edit. I'm not saying the side piece is without blame, but the cheater, abandoner, is the main villain. In this instance, I'd never speak to either one of them again. Again though, your wedding, not the a-hole. This is a tough one. Your father abandoned all of you, and it was you and your mother who bore the brunt of the consequences of his actions. Suddenly having to raise 3 girls on her own must have been scary and stressful for your mom, and you had to take on that stress as well, caring for your sisters and helping your mom through all of that difficulty. Meanwhile, your father got to go and start a brand new life with his secretary, and got to be the fun weekend dad to your younger sisters when it was convenient for him. I see comments on here telling you that you and your mother need to get over the past. But the fact that you both still carry a lot of that weight from the past with you shows how heavy it all truly was for you. Honestly, you don't owe your father a thing. You have been graceful with both he and his wife, and for them to demand that you place their attendance at your wedding above your mother's is out of line. It's your wedding. If you don't want people there that stir up difficult and painful emotions for you and your mother, then you have every right to not invite them. You have not been unkind to either of them, and you've handled this in a very gentle and civil way. You are not obligated to accommodate them any more than you already have. Not the a-hole. Your mom 100% deserves to be in your wedding. Your father doesn't. Your father did an extremely horrible thing, something I would never forgive if I were in your shoes. He's the worst A. It seems like your sisters still don't have an idea of how despicable your father's actions were, and how that affected your mom. I honestly cannot fathom how they don't seem to understand this, and they should first and foremost support your mom, but they can end up being A's. You're not the a-hole at all. Don't let them guilt trip you if it ever comes to that, and keep giving your best to your amazing mom. Update. I'm going to take my dad up on his offer not to come, and let my sisters know they're welcome not to either. My mom's my best friend. She's been there for me my entire life, even through her own misery. If no one else comes, but she's there, I'll be happy. Update 2. Called my dad, tried to appease, diffuse the situation by apologizing. Tried to explain that I understand his point of view and that I respect his relationship, but that I can't ask Mom to go through that, and that it would spoil the day for me knowing the pain she'd be going through. Asked him if he'd consider doing something just the 4 of us, him, Anna, me, fiancé, or maybe the 6 of us with my sisters. A nice dinner somewhere, paid for by my fiancé and I, so we can celebrate our union together. He hung up the phone. So, there you go. Voila, my dad. I, 33 female, have a 13-year-old son named Adam that I've raised on my own. His dad, Chris, 34 male, was someone I met in college. We had mutual friends and started dating when we were 18 and 19 years old. We broke up because he told me that his family would never accept a woman like me. I'm a person of color, and he didn't want to put either of us through that. I found out I was pregnant a few weeks later, and when I told him about the baby, he basically told me to stay out of his life. I didn't contact Chris again after that. I even transferred colleges, but I kept in touch with the friends I had there. Some of them knew that he and I had broken up, but not everyone knew I was pregnant. When I had Adam, I contacted a few people to announce it. But otherwise, I just kept it to myself and focused on my son. I didn't think to worry about Chris beyond maybe helping Adam track him down someday when he was older. A few months ago, I got a message from one of the friends I kept up with from college. He said that he was still friends with Chris as well, and Chris had asked him if he had my number. He made sure it was okay with me before giving it to him. Chris texted me asking if he could get to know my son. I told him I'd talk to Adam about it first, and Adam eventually agreed to start talking to him. They've had pretty consistent messages back and forth, and 1 or 2 phone calls over the past few months. Chris asked if we'd be comfortable having dinner with him and his wife, and because Adam said he really wanted to, I said okay, and we set a time and place. Adam went to go to the restroom, and Chris went to get his phone out of the car because he'd left it in there on accident. So when his wife, Grace, 34 female, and I were alone, she said that she wasn't judging my choice to do so, but she wanted to know why I waited so long to tell Chris he had a son. I kind of laughed and told her that I told Chris I was pregnant the day after I found out about it, and he asked me to stay away, so I did. Him not knowing my son was his choice. She looked shocked and told me that Chris had informed her that he'd only found out about Adam a few months ago. I said I was sorry her husband lied to her, but he's known about Adam the whole time. Dinner was painfully awkward after that, so it ended a little early. Later in the night, when I was getting ready for bed, I got a text from Chris asking why I had told his wife that he had lied to her about the situation. I said it wasn't my place to cover for him. But then he replied that I should have just told her to talk to him about it, instead of telling her something that could ruin their marriage. He thinks I did it as some gotcha for how things ended for us. I will admit that I knew telling her the truth was probably going to make some waves. But the only thing I feel remorseful about is the fact that this is probably going to screw things up for the relationship he's trying to have with my son. Still, was I the a-hole for telling her? Edited to add. I had a conversation with Adam about why the dinner became so awkward last night, and he has said that he doesn't want to talk to Chris anymore because he doesn't think he'll get anything beneficial from a relationship with his bio father that he doesn't already have in his life. I obviously respect that choice, and I told him that I could tell Chris that for him if he'd like me to, but he said he'll call or text him on his own. Also, I don't plan to get any child support from Chris because it's not something Adam wants. And because in order to get support, I'd have to put Chris on the birth certificate, and I'm not comfortable doing that. I don't want him to have any sort of access to my son, and Adam has said he doesn't want him to have rights over him either. Not the a-hole. He created this mess. This is on him. Don't let him try to make his problems your problems. They aren't. Not the a-hole. The lie was about you. Too bad for him he wanted to be the good guy in his wife's eyes at your expense. Not the a-hole. It's not your place to lie for someone who tossed away a child because it was inconvenient. And the fact you handled everything like a boss is all the better. Plus, he didn't even say, "Hey, I lied to my wife, will you cover for me?" Literally nothing. Odds are he only got in contact because the wife found out he had a kid and pushed him. And he had to come up with something that didn't make him look like a jerk.